And here we are. Welcome, everybody. Mike DiMuccio here. And this is Aligning with Success. I'm in a different room in my house today. Today, I'm in my boardroom. Heck, since it's being recorded, give me a second.
You have to let everyone see it, Mike.
Might as well show you what this boardroom consists of, because it's
Spectacular.
Kind of a project of the heart. So let's see if I can even see. Yeah, you should be able to make it out. So what you're looking at is the 5 pillars of health. Tell me if you can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this table sits 10 people. And by the way, that painting, I've never mentioned that before. That painting is called Life Balance. Quick story. It was my gift to myself for going Royal Diamond. I was in Maui, Hawaii at a Nikken leadership, the Team Diamond leadership. And I walked into this art dealer who is rather famous, Christian Lassen. And there's a whole story there because talk about law of attraction. The first time I ever saw Christian Lassen anything, painting, picture, was in Osaka, Japan on my first trip to Japan. Fell in love with the image and later discovered that I had the image on my first life cycle plan. Duh. And that was only 3 months, not even 3 months earlier. So here I have a cutting of Christian Lassen's dolphin called, I think it was called Eternity. And it's on my life cycle plan. I'm in Japan for the first time, 4 months into Nikken for the contest. And I'm in Osaka walking through the streets in one of those outdoor malls. And what do I encounter? The actual painting in the window. So I inquire how much the painting costs. And it was a little bit out of my budget, about 120,000 US dollars out of my budget. But they did have images of, photographs, small photographs, and they did a whole thing, a packet with all the photos in it of the various pieces that he's done over the years. And I always had it in my mind to have a Christian Lassen painting. So the first one I bought is the one that I saw in the window. It's an artist proof. It's in my other office where I usually sit. And that one's called Eternity. It's a dolphin diving into the picture with the sunset and everything in the background and the stars and Saturn and whatnot. And this one, next visit in Maui for an event we were hosting, and I had become Royal Diamond that year. And so I decided I was going to give myself a gift. So I went to the same gallery where I went to the first time. I walked into the gallery, and of course, his art is just amazing. And some of them are huge pieces, worth a small fortune. And I walk up and I see this painting. Now, this is me imagining what it was going to be like in this room before this room was actually put together, before this table was even built. But it was all in my mind. Wow. And I see this painting on the wall, which is this lone dolphin doing a backflip with the moon behind. And you guys have probably seen it because Sophia was my guest speaker. She was speaking in front of that painting. And I asked the person at the shop, what's the name? Because every painting has a name with him. What's the name of this painting? And the shopkeeper said, Life Balance. And I said, sold. I didn't even ask the price. I just knew I had to have it. So there you have it. Life Balance in my boardroom where my round table exists. Anyway, I digress. I just wanted to share that with you because it's such a cool space. And well, when you're visiting Toronto, come and look me up and we'll have coffee at the round table. Have a round table discussion. This is my
well worth it. Well worth seeing it, everybody.
my nights of the
I've
round
had the
table.
privilege of sitting at it, and it's well worth it.
Yeah, it's quite a piece. Anyway, by the way, you may not know, but these chairs that I'm sitting on, these chairs actually, I found out, you can't really get a good look. Well, the chair that I have in my boardroom and these ones are not my desk, and these are the smaller versions sitting at this table. These chairs are lovingly referred to as the Masuda chairs, because it was in his office in the North American head office that I saw these chairs, and somebody caught me on my knees looking underneath to find the name of this chair so I could order them and have them shipped to Canada, which I did. Anyway, again, I digress. But these are the things you think of when you have the time and the money. You start getting creative. So let's just do a quick little bit of a recap about the last few weeks, because it's been pretty intense. And I think it's really quite interesting too, because the material that we're covering is not only relevant where our business is concerned in terms of manifesting, but it's very relevant in terms of the conditions in the world at large. Sharing this kind of information with other people so that they can have a little bit more peace of mind. I shared something on Facebook today. I hope you guys jump all over it and share it with your friends. It's a host of doctors that just went all out to say, we've had enough of the nonsense, and this is what's going on, and they're not telling you this, and we're here to tell you, we're in the front lines. This is what we're experiencing. This is what's working, and you're being denied this information by a conspiracy. Essentially, there is a conspiracy to deny you this information because there is an agenda. I hope you guys have figured that out. You guys are pretty smart, but it's helping other people realize, yeah, there's such a criminal element at work that it's so big and so deep. Remember, 9/11 happened right under everybody's nose, right? And still 20 years later, nobody's been brought to justice. So that tells you a lot about what can happen in plain sight in this world, where they can take down, for those of you who are still stuck on whether that happened or not the way you think it happened, 2,300 architects and engineers swore affidavits that this went down, building number 7, which is the smoking gun. Most people don't know. What do you mean building number 7? I thought there were 2 towers. Yeah, there were 2 towers and building number 7, the smoking gun. That building was seen. Pa, 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 pa. You see the demolitions going off. It was filmed. We watch it collapse in free fall, just like the other towers did, on its own footprint. And this is a building that was supposedly started from some fiery shard that hit the building. No building collapses under fire. No airplane hit it, nothing. Anyway, it's the smoking gun. But what really brought these architects out to swear that this was brought down by demolitions was a court case in the United Kingdom, which was eventually thrown out because they didn't want the architects' affidavits in the record, because they said this was taken down. Anyway, so what this case was about was a guy who didn't, basically, the CBC was filming a reporter discussing building 7 coming down 22 minutes before the building actually came down. So they were pitching the narrative that was scripted before it actually happened, which was clearly the indication that this was conspired. This was going to happen, and they conspired to make it happen. Anyway, so when stuff like that can happen in this world, you have no questions in your mind that things like COVID and all that are just operations. And while there are people hurt, no more than last year, by the way, in terms of flu, influenza, A and B, and the pneumonia, what we do know is that there is censorship going on, and that is the smoking gun, that there are some people who do not want you to be awakened to the truth, and that is that you don't need a vaccine. You would never, ever in your lifetime need one for anything, because your body knows how to take care of itself, and it's been doing that since the beginning of time. But we need to understand how to put our body in that state. And so what is the state that brings health and healing to our body is what we were talking about with Sophia's help in terms of the meditation and the heart and mind coherence. Bringing the heart and mind into coherence immediately puts our body out of the fight or flight response and into the self-regulation and healing response. And so literally, when you're calm, when you're at peace with yourself, your body is actually healing. Now, of course, what can you do to improve that is you give all the environmental conditions that make that facilitate that, which means you remove toxins from the environment and the food and the water, and you give your body the proper vital nutrients and energy that it needs in order to be supported. And we do that in Nikken. What we have is the absolute perfect solution for a time like this. But in the absence of a clear mind, the solution is inadequate. And so it's very important that we apply what we've learned over the years in terms of the philosophy of balance, a balanced life, and a balanced way of looking at things. Being informed helps. Being informed and recognizing that the only fear is what's being mongered, and on purpose, there's an agenda behind that fear to keep us out of balance, to keep us irregulated, to keep us in the fight or flight response, which compromises our immune system and makes us prone and susceptible to any type of infection. So keep that in mind, that part of this agenda that we have is to help people understand that fear is something that conspires against our immune system, and anything that we can do to eradicate fear in people's mind is important. And education does that, and helping people to understand that, yeah, even though it looks pretty bad in terms of there are bad people out there trying to make something happen, there's also some pretty smart people out there making sure it doesn't happen. And so we don't see everything on the surface. But there's been some crazy news this week. I'm so excited. I know this is a very different conversation than what I was expecting to have, but I don't know if you guys saw the most recent news that what do they call it? Not the Air Force, but not NASA. Anyway, one of the bodies of the government released information that they actually have recovered materials from non-terrestrial objects, meaning down spacecrafts. And this is stuff that goes way back to, for those of you who were around during Roswell, and you understood that that was the beginning of the major cover-up of some real interesting information that would most certainly have affected humanity in a very different way than what we've been living now or up to now. So I happen to believe that the warring factions of this planet are trying to bring the truth out about what life is really like behind the veil versus what we're getting in terms of the mainstream consumer consumption model, you know. And so it's going to be very exciting times, no doubt, in the times ahead. But at the same time, there's going to be a lot of disruption caused by people who can't handle the truth. And there are people who can't handle the truth. Look at them online, you know, making fools of themselves about this pandemic because they can't handle the truth. They cannot handle anything that's outside of the scope of the narrative that gives them a sense of comfort. Comfort is familiarity, right? Familiarity, comfort. We talked about that. It's familiar because it's comfortable because it's familiar. Well, that's not change and that's not progress. If you want to make a quantum leap, we need to be in the unfamiliar territory. Okay, so can you have a calm approach to an uncomfortable situation? Of course, the answer is yes. We can remain calm and still be in an uncomfortable situation. And so pressure, the right kind of pressure, causes us to expand. And if we can keep our heads about us, then we're going to be able to get the maximum benefit from that expansion and not compromise our health in the process. So this is the mind-heart coherence concept of take 15 minutes, take 10 minutes out of your day, and just do it for yourself, especially if you find yourself in a state of panic or feeling out of control, or you happen to hit something on the news, or you saw something in your Facebook feed that gets you really pissed. And by the way, I'm telling you this because it happens to me a lot. I get pissed a lot when I'm seeing stuff on Facebook because I see what's going on, eyes wide shut, right? I see what's going on. And it makes me very angry to see people purposefully conspiring against the good of people. And there's so much disinformation out there that it's gotten to a point where that's by the way on purpose as well, because then it confuses the heck out of you, and then you don't know what to believe. And if you don't know what to believe, you're in a state of panic. So here's what I want you to take away from this dialogue. Everything's fine. Everything is as it should be. You are exactly where you need to be. You're exactly where you need to be. You've gotten to this point, and you're in a conversation and in a company and in a modality where you're way ahead of a lot of people, way ahead of the masses, way ahead. You've had the benefit of this type of insight for a long time, and so it's going to be you that's called upon in these times, because you have the benefit of this hindsight, the experience, the knowledge, the awareness. You have what a lot of people are going to be looking for if you remain calm, cool, and collected. If people see, how can you be so calm in this situation? And you say, because there's nothing to worry about. There's nothing to be fearful of. I have been living my life according to health for a long, long time. I'm very happy with my body's ability to protect itself from these things, these intrusions. And so, and I'm not shaken by the media, because I know that's basically the mouthpiece of the CIA. So I'm not shaken by what they have to say, because I know it's just what they want me to know, and it's not the truth. Anyway, if you can be in that light, then you're going to be fine. So I hope I haven't shaken you up too much with this conversation, but I really feel the need to make you aware that there is something happening that's not okay. That's not the natural course of things. That no, this is not nature showing up. That there is in fact a very deep agenda going on here, and you can see that in the evidence. Is that look at all the countries outside of the United States, and if you haven't done that, please do that. Please look at outside of the U.S., because what you're seeing in your media about what's going on in your country is not the truth. So be aware of the fact that that's going on, and see outside of the scope of that. So check out the video on the YouTube, on my Facebook post that was posted today. In 4 hours, this video got 11 million views. So it's pretty cool. And they're very impassioned people. They're doctors. They're all medical professionals who did a, what do you call it? A press release. And they wanted to just state their case from being right there where the action is as to what they're experiencing. And I think it's healthy for us to have that outlook. So that's my news for today and this week. Does anybody want to report in on any of your experiences in the last week? Again, given that there's been such an important emphasis on how do we approach our objectives, our goals? How do we course correct? Like last week we talked about, okay, your numbers didn't quite match what you wrote down on the piece of paper, but then isn't that a strong indication of the misalignment? So it's not that things didn't happen, because that never happens. Something's always happening. There's when you set an intention, something happens. But maybe you didn't have 100% a batting average. By the way, they pay millions and millions of dollars to batters who can hit 300. That means they hit 30% of the time when they're at bat. And those are the highest paid athletes in baseball. So we don't need to be batting 100, but the more we're in alignment, the more we're going to have fun, the more we're going to enjoy our experience in weekend. And that alignment means when you set a goal and an intention, you begin to move not just your head, but your heart into this. And when your head and your heart get into alignment, that's when things really happen. And there's a terminology for this, the mind, body, and heart connection. Bob Proctor used to call it praxis. I mentioned this in an earlier call. Praxis is the integration of belief with behavior. So when you are operating as if and in an alignment with what you intend, then you're going to be much more effective in your communication and how people perceive you. So it's really important that we get this connection going and we work on it. So what we experienced was maybe an inconsistency, maybe we didn't get the alignment, the results that we wanted from our event, our Zoom-in event, but we did learn something, and that is that there's room for improvement. We also talked about where that improvement can be. How do we bring that alignment back in? How do we fortify it so that we actually start operating as though we really believe our own words? We believe our own intentions. We believe in our own capabilities to draw in and attract to us all the pieces. And like I said, I pointed out Leo because he's such a great example for us. He has a simple intention every day, and he manifests that intention because he's practiced it. How many months, years, Leo, have you been practicing this intention of meeting new people every day? That being your goal.
It began January 2017.
January of 2017. So that's 3.5 years ago. So if you've been doing something for 3.5 years and it's one thing and it's every day for 3.5 years, would you agree that that's a habit? That's not even something that really requires much effort on his part? It would be like he went to bed without brushing his teeth. He would feel like really weird if he didn't make those contacts. So that's my point is we got to practice this. It's just not going to fall into our lap. We've been in the habit of operating on an unconscious level for far too long, and we need to be really conscious about this in terms of getting this alignment. Okay, well, we do have another event coming up. I don't know if the speakers have been identified yet. I think we have a list, but it'll be a great event, and that'll be a mid-month event as well, the third Saturday of August. But right now we have a month end. So before I get into this last subject that I'm going to talk about, which is the month end stretch, I want to ask if anybody has any experience over the last week that they'd like to share in terms of an aha, anything with respect to the idea of bringing alignment into your intentions. Any specific outcomes, any experiences, anything, just what's coming up for you as you're going through this? Yes, Soko.
Okay, I have 2 new customers today. I don't know that they're not people they're referrals from my customers. And so I did focus on my business, but I was focusing on consultants, but I'm getting retail. But I'm very happy because then at least I'm attracting. I just have to now focus the attraction. Am I right?
That was one of the things that came up last week. What was problematic was there wasn't sufficient focus. That was what Sophia picked up in your feedback and everybody's feedback. The first thing that she said is what appears to be lacking is the focus. So how about trying this? And I find this is really a great tool, by the way. You can put it on a card, size of your business card. Write down the five most important, 5 key attributes of the person you most want to partner with. Now, what you're doing by doing that is you're soul searching, you're tuning in. Let's just say you're tuning into the frequency of the type of person you want to attract. And so you're defining it in words. Now, carry that card with you. Carry it like a goal card. Carry it with you. Keep it with you for a couple of reasons. One, because number one, it's a reminder. If you consider it and look at it, it's a constant reminder of tuning the fork. You're tuning the frequency. It's like playing a guitar, but you got to tune the instrument to get the right sound. So it's something that requires tuning, and it helps you to be more focused. The other reason, let's say, because you're tuning this, and I've done this, by the way, you see somebody who appears to have 1 or 2 of the attributes that you've got on your card. You could walk bold-faced straight up to that person and say, "Hi, My name is Mike DiMuccio. I know you don't know me from Adam, but I've noticed something about you. And funny thing is, I carry a card in my wallet that I outlines 5 key attributes of the person that I'd most want to work with. And I happen to notice, and then you tell them what you noticed about them, which falls in line with 1 or 2 of those key attributes. Now, I don't know if you and I have anything in common other than that, but what I'd like to do is have an opportunity to sit down and talk to you about the possibility of working together, because I'm expanding in the area and I'm looking for people that have these key attributes. Right now is probably not a good time because I got to get to an appointment, but let's exchange information and I'll reach out to you in the next day or 2. Now, if you got somebody who did that, do you think that they're going to find you offensive or anything? So it makes you become an observer. And I'm certain that that's part of Leo's strategy, is his radar is constantly looking for something interesting, someone interesting. And he has an idea of what interests him. So when he sees that, that's somebody I want to talk to. That's somebody I want to meet. And when you got that excuse, if you need it to be an excuse that you're carrying, I happen to have this card in here, I'll show you it. And I have written on it 5 key attributes of the person I'd most want to work with. And I happen to notice how attentive you were here, or how helpful you were here, or how whatever it is that you've got as an attribute that could relate to that. You have an excuse now to talk to somebody who hits your radar and not be embarrassed about it. So if you're looking for an icebreaker to, scan an audience and see what could attract what you would want to be attracted to, itemize what it is that you're attracted to, and then use that card. So that's a really great tool. Yeah, Miyoko, you have
That works, because you just reminded me I was a recruiter. Okay, and I used that in order to break the ice with certain people I was looking for. Thank you. All right.
on. Perfect. By the way, you can do this on Facebook. You can do this on social media. You can contact somebody and say the same thing. I happen to notice, as long as there's something you notice about them, something they said, something they posted, something about them that says, I wonder if this person is this kind of person, then you have a reason to reach out and say, I don't know if you don't know me from Adam, and I don't know if this will at all relate to you, but I happen to have, and this about you I noticed. I'm wondering if we could have a dialogue. So there's an optimal tool, I think, to break the ice with anybody. Anyone else want to share something? Yes, Leo.
I practiced tonight my English. 2 weeks ago, I have an appointment with a girl I met 3 years ago for Nikan. I asked her, but she's very not interested about Nikan. I try again. I said, I ought to take a coffee with you. I said, it's okay, but don't talk to me about Nikan. I'm not interested, blah, blah, blah. I said, I have many subjects to talk without Nikan. I just want to meet a coffee. I said, okay, I have just 1 hour for you. No problem. We meet her in the old Montreal, you see, Port Montreal, Old Port, nice place. And she said, 1 hour, don't worry. 3 hours later, we never talk about Nikan, everything. But you know what's happened? The same night, she invited me to the Deepak Chopra 21 Days of Abundance Meditation.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, I began that 2 weeks ago with her. It's very, very interesting. And imagine it's something's happened 2 weeks. I'm starting my third week today. But the other week, young ladies called me, Leo, I want to see you. I say, who are you? I met you 10 years ago in a restaurant, take a coffee, and you give me some Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad CDs, and I do clean my house, and I find that And 10 years ago, I don't read it, but now I want to see you. I said, okay. I meet her last Friday. She speaks English, French, and Spanish.
Wow.
Yes, wow. She's very, 10 years ago, she's not interested. She was 19 years old. Now she's 29. She's on the spot. Okay. Just tonight, I have received another call from a man. I meet them 2 years ago. He said, Leo, can you see? I want interested to talk about Nigan. I have a breakfast tomorrow morning. 2 weeks.
Now, some people might say, "Oh, that's a really great coincidence."
Oh,
Or those of you who understand
it's so
and have
easy.
learned well that this is law of attraction. This is you.
Last Friday, I go to ice cream. It's
Yeah.
like Dairy Queen. I'm along with a young lady. She served me. Nobody. I have to try to go to eat my ice cream or talk to her. I just talk. Why do you do that? You go school, blah, blah, blah. I said, I just want the email. It's so easy. I take my paper. You see, she said, I did interest to her. She goes school, blah, blah, blah. And after when I finish, said, what you do? Oh, I'm a consultant on Japanese technology, magnet, blah, 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 and ambassador on human being more. Wow, sounds good. Oh, you some clients coming. Give me your email and send you something. Easy. That's why I do every day. That's why.
Awesome. Awesome. By the way, that rainstorm is hitting pretty hard right now. Now, this is the point. The point is when you get into the heart-mind coherence, it becomes effortless. Situations, opportunities will present themselves. And this is the thing. You will know you're doing it right because that's what you're going to experience. And what does it mean to do it right? Practice. Just get into the feeling. See the outcome of the life that you want to live. See what it feels like to be in that life. Start living as though you are that person. And then you start drawing to you what that person would draw to themselves because it's frequency. We talked about the guitar strings. It's called harmonic resonance. It's an induction. That's the world that we're living in. How things work is by induction. It's all law of vibration. You will attract what you are in harmony with, and you will reject what you're not in harmony with. So keep this in mind based on our earlier discussion. If coronavirus is anything, then it's a frequency. And if you are in a higher frequency than something that would want to take away from you, deny you of health, if you're in a health frequency, why is it that people with comorbidity are at risk? What's their frequency if they've got comorbidities? Their frequency is a condition of their body, is a condition of their state of being. And if their being is in a low vibration, then they're going to attract whatever it is in harmony with. And that is usually illness, not wellness. So being in that high state of vibration, aligning your thoughts and your feelings will always inspire the actions to be in alignment. And therefore, what you will experience is what Leo's experiencing. It just becomes effortless as you draw to you all the circumstances. Anyone else before we go on to the piece that I'm going to go on to, which is a little bit more of a technical thing? Okay, well, let me talk about something that I shared with my platinum going diamond this month in Colombia. Month end. So now this strategy, I think, was probably a little bit more effective when we had a few more ranks in between silver, because the goal here is to help people move forward. As long as there's forward motion, everybody's happy. And I'll give you a metaphor for that. If you've ever stood in a line at a shopping mall or a grocery store, as long as the line is moving, everybody's fine. But if that line gets stagnant for whatever period of time, for whatever reason, and you notice, that's when you become impatient. You start looking, what's going on up there? Oh my God, they're paying with a check. Oh my God. So you get agitated. Movement keeps everybody happy. And in our business, movement means progress in terms of ranks. Now, we seem to have lost the culture, and I want to resurrect the culture of rank advancements. I've been having conversations with Ben and others about the need for us to become very aggressive in our approach to bring rank advancement back as an agenda, as a goal, as an objective for the business. Because if you're not tied to the compensation plan in terms of your activities, then the compensation plan is really of no incentive value whatsoever. And the incentives that have been created, the other incentive program, that is more of an organic approach. That's more of a bottom-up approach. And it is retail-centric. Whereas the compensation plan is more of a top-down approach. And it really doesn't focus on retail. It focuses on organizational skills, organization, and what inspires action. And if you remember the presentation that I did, leaders inspire action, and what inspires leaders to act are the three things: what, how, or the why, the how, and the what, and in that order. So that conversation relates to the compensation plan. So why is this way? How does that benefit me? And what do I have to do to get it done? So if we look at the comp plan from that standpoint, then what we know is there needs to be movement forward. There needs to be progress. And why is it that in Latin America specifically, there is so much rank advancement going on? Why am I being called into a strategy session to talk about what we can do to help these people rank advance? He's got silvers going, he's got golds going, he's got platinums going. And it's like, man, those were the heydays. For me, that was when I was having the most fun in Nikken, was when I was working with people who were rank advancing. It gave me something to do, very specific and very objective on a monthly basis. So I think that culture is desperately required. And I'll give you, just for those of you who recall or maybe don't recall, but there was a reason why there was almost a pushback to it. There was this notion, this concept of, well, but we're creating empty silvers. You know, they go silver and then they flatline the next month or two or three or whatever. And that was it was a $20,000 spike in volume to generate a silver, remember? That's not the case anymore. So we threw the baby out with the bathwater. We have a much better compensation plan, but we threw away the technique that drove the plan. And we've got to bring that technique back. So this concept is especially useful for a month-end stretch. We call it a month-end stretch because it's in the last 3 or 4 or 5 days of the month that you're going to want to pull the rabbit out of the hat if you're helping somebody go silver, go gold, go platinum, etc. And it all boils down to who's advancing in rank and how can we facilitate that. So I want to give you an example, and I'm sure this is not new for most of you, but in case it is for some of you, I want to give you a principle. So first and foremost, we need to identify people on our team that are nearing or able to advance in rank. Beginning, I'm just going to give you the simplest one, executive. Oops, it's going to mark that. That actually works. Here we go. So let's say I've identified somebody in my team who has the potential to go executive. And they're not executive yet. They're a direct, and there's a potential for them to go executive. And let's say they're sitting at about, I don't know, 600 or 700 points. I don't know if you can read that, but that says 700 points. So what do they need to go executive? You're thinking, wow, they're at 700 points. They're not going to do executive this month. Why not? Let's do the executive. Let's make that a goal. Let's get it done. Now all of a sudden we have a challenge. Now we have something to go for. Now we have to be creative. Let's say it's the last couple of days of the month. It's like, okay, how's this going to work? Now I'm giving you the small bite, the little one, because this is you can expand on this. And that's what we did in the example. He was 16,000 points short of the objective with so much time still left. Now I'm telling you, this is the technique that I was doing to break silvers left, right, and center. If you had 8,000 points coming into the second last day of the month, but you had something on the scoreboard in terms of activity, I could help you get to silver. You're like, how do you get somebody with 8,000 points to 20,000 points back then? And the answer was this technique. This is what I did. So There's 700 points on the scoreboard. We need 1,500 points to get the job done. So how many points are they short? 800. Oops. These markers. Oh, let's try this one. Okay. We need 800 points. Now, usually when a direct is starting out in the business, they're really conservative about investing. But by now, they may have had some experience. By now, they may have had something going on. In fact, they may even have potentially a customer. So let's notify, how do we do this is we draw down in a dotted line, potential customer, potential consultant, okay? In a dotted line. So let's say this executive has, of course, we don't know unless we actually call them, but we're going to ask them. We're going to say, hey, okay, we're going to help you get the job done here. So we need to identify a few things. You've made some calls, you've gone to people and so forth. Is there anybody who's looking at the products, maybe thinking about the products? And you identify who that may be, again, in a dotted line, because now that's a target. That tells us there's work that needs to be done. Guess what the work is? Can you read that? This is where the ABC comes in. Okay. Wow, this phone. Let me just mute myself here. Oh, it is muted. Okay. All right, so we need to come up with 800 points. We got potentially a customer, and chances are this executive, this future executive, this direct, doesn't really have much products. But now they're starting to have some confidence. And we're in like the last couple of days of the month. So let's make a phone call. Upline, let's reach down and find out and make an offer. We're going to help you go executive. That's what we do in this business. We help people advance. Advancements in rank is critical to success, and you need to advance. Well, but Mike, I just got started a week ago. Yeah, and where is it written? Go slow. It's not, and nothing that's worth doing is worth doing slow. So let's get on with it. So executive. Now, what you need is about 800 points. Have you talked to anybody? Have you got some people who've maybe thought about something, who've looked at some of the products? Have you had any of these conversations? Well, you know, my sister's thinking about the waterfall and so forth and whatever. Great. Well, here, why don't we consider this? If does anybody have the points for a waterfall? Handy? Is about 300-400 points? 300 points? Even? Or is it a little bit more? Unmute.
336, sorry.
It's what?
336 is the American dollar.
Okay. 336. We're just going to use that as an example because that really helps.
Yeah.
336 points is a waterfall. Okay. So she's thinking about maybe getting a waterfall. Do you think she might get that waterfall if maybe we threw in I don't know, couple of replacement filters or maybe a sports bottle or something, right?
Yeah.
We can incentivize that transaction to happen. Now, let's say we're going to get those 336 points over here, but it's going to require us to make an investment. And that investment might be, I don't know, 50 points, maybe even as much as 100 points. Let's just put the 100 points over here. Now, that's 100 points. That's 333 points. That's 436 of the 800 points we need to help that person go executive. Now, I say to that person, look, I'm willing to do this. What are you willing to do to get the rest of the way there? Are there any products that you might need? Something that you need to get, etc. So between you and that person, can you come up with the difference? That's 436. So you need 364 points. 364 points. Do you think this person might consider getting their own waterfall? Maybe so. So now what we've just done is we've thrown, and now that's 336. We're still a bit short. Tell you what, you do that. I'm going to what else you need? You need a back MagFlex. What do you need? What do you really want? MagFlex. Perfect. I'm going to get you the MagFlex. You get the waterfall, I get you the MagFlex. Then we got all the points that we need. You're done. Now, how much are the points for a MagFlex? Anybody got that number?
Pretty sure it's 51, 50.
About 50, 51 points? Okay, so
61.
we've had to invest,
61.
how much?
61.
61
That's
points.
Yeah, 51 is
So-
the wholesale.
So we've had to invest 100 points to incentivize the waterfall and 61 points to incentivize the second waterfall for a grand total of 161 points. Now, what did we get out of 161 points incentives? We got 336 points here, 336 points there, which is a grand total of 3672, so 672. So 161 points invested got us a grand total of 672 points in volume out of thin air. And that ratio is about 1 to 5, which is typical. 1 to 5, an investment of 1, return 5 times. So that I've taken that 161 point investment, but leveraged it to create volume. Now that's one example with this executive. Does the executive have an upline? What if that person's upline is closing in on executive 2 or silver? What if they're closing in on silver? This little tic-tac-toe strategy down here of 161 points, so far the assumption was that I was investing that. But what if it's to the benefit of the person above them that they go executive or they go silver with that 161 points that I've worked as a strategy? So now let's say that's whoever that is, Amanda. So we get a hold of Amanda, or Amanda may be part of this conversation from the beginning, and this person down here is Joe. Hey, Amanda, looks like Joe's going executive. We got it all worked out. We just need to help out a bit. We need 161 points. Now, Amanda, that's going to throw you up at executive as well. And would you be willing to contribute 61 points or whatever to this happening? So now we can even share the load. It's a tic-tac-toe strategy. It's just really detailed, but you're making a strategy happen. And you can literally go at a 1 to 5. Usually it's between a 4 and a 6 times, or excuse me, a 3 and a 5 times multiple. So the worst case scenario is 1,000 points invested gives you 3,000 additional points return. It's usually 4, 5 times. 5 is usually what I target. So at 1,000 points invested would result in an additional 5,000 points in volume through this strategy of points and products. This is what we have to keep in mind. Points and products. Mike, may have or Amanda may have a customer potentially. Now, let me give another strategy. Let's say this person over here, down here, maybe is thinking about getting a sleep system. How about I help that process along? We may be trying to get Amanda to silver. So what if I offered a waterfall for that sleep system? So now we're talking about a 336 point investment, but what is a sleep system going to give us? 1,500 points, 1,800 points, right? At least 3, 4, and 5 times that investment. Now, I might put the points or the waterfall over here, but I may end up putting the points up here to help Amanda go silver. Or it could be the reverse. This person up here is thinking about buying a sleep system. So we offer the waterfall to this person, but we put the points under this person. How do we do that? We place the order in their ID number and we ship the product to the customer. So now I'm getting product and points for that investment. It's not just one or the other, it's both. So start thinking in terms of, you got a bank account. The bank account is the total investments that are going to be made in helping this thing happen. That's the bank account. And that consists of points and product. Then figure out who gets the points and who gets the product. Start making the deals. Start seeing what's on the table, what could be harvested, what's the low-hanging fruit, and work backwards all the way up the root of that tree, and you will find how you can help somebody advance in rank to executive and or silver. And those are the two options that we have now. You can see why it would have been easier if we had a senior executive, bronze and silver, because everybody's going to move up a little bit. Right now we've got a bit of a quantum leap, but the volume required is lower, so it shouldn't be any more difficult. So now, any questions?
Where did the waterfall go? Help me.
Let's just create a scenario. So let's say Amanda has potentially a customer who's thinking about a sleep system. So we want to offer a waterfall, 336 points. Now I'm going to send the waterfall to this customer, but I got 336 points now I can put where I need it. So let's say this person didn't come through for me. So I'll put the 336 points here. This person will place the order, product will get shipped to this person, and now we still make our means. But we got even more volume now for Amanda, because now Amanda has a sleep system purchase of 1,500 points or whatever. So you're leveraging an investment in product and points. Somebody gets the points, somebody gets the products. Sometimes they get both, depending on the situation. But if you're drilling down and you're looking at who's on the team right now, start with who's on the team and who can I help advance in rank right now? And then look at, okay, who do they have potentially? Who have they talked to? Well, how am I going to know that? I got to call them. I'm going to say, okay. And by the way, it's just even the contact itself. The fact that I was on the phone with these people, they're like, wow, you're calling me to help me? Yeah. And so that alone means something. When somebody reaches down to help somebody move up in the comp plan, because they benefit. And the fact that you're giving them time and attention, I think is really cool. If you did this every month, looked at who's on the scoreboard, who can I help move forward on the comp plan, then zoom in on that individual and say, okay, what do you got? What do you got in the hopper? Like, what work have you done this month? Who have you talked to? Where are they at? And you create a single strategy for that person. They might have 3, 4, 5 people they've talked to. Guess what you're going to have? 3, 4, 5 ABC calls. But before you go into that ABC call, figure out what you might want to offer, given what you know. And then when you go into that ABC call and find out this person's been thinking about that, or maybe you just simply offer it. We've got incentives right now this month. Right now, Niken is offering some incentives on price discounts. We can use that. That could be part of how we leverage. We leverage those incentives. So this is month end stretch, and it's by design to help people advance and rank. So you need to be focused on helping people advance and rank. Any questions? If there's anything that's confusing, I'll turn the page and we'll start over again and help you really grasp this, because it's a really cool concept and you can really make things happen quick. Yeah.
I was just going to say, if this happened to all of us, we wouldn't be where we're at. In other words, for me, I've never had anyone do anything close to this to help me.
Wow.
So, no, honestly. So that's why, for me, that's why you can see why I retail and I don't have a big team. But all of the things that you help are team builders, which is awesome, Mike. That's the whole point.
And for instance, in this call that I did tonight with Jaime, a really interesting thing I told him on this call. I said, you know, when I went Royal Diamond, of course, we were employing all this. And that's part of how I got things done. Like, all these ideas started flooding into my mind as to how to make things happen, how to pull rabbits out of a hat. And then I went into the last 2 days of the month, chill. because I was like, okay, let's see what we got to work with. And then I would just start working with that person, drawing it out, say, okay, you got it? Okay, let's go. Let's make those phone calls. And did it happen 100%? Of course not. But we got it done because we had the intention, we had a clear game plan, and we were just going to figure out who were the people who were going to fall in line. And it worked. And by the way, if you don't believe me, there's a call that's recorded called Silver's a Blast. You'll find it on YouTube by me, Silver's a Blast. Silver apostrophe S, Silver's a Blast. And that call was recorded. I was working with, this was 2 months of activity. So I was working with, in succession, 2 months, and we broke a whack of silvers. I can't remember how many. It was about 30 or 40 silvers in the whole organization at the time. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to do a call to help people realize that the concept of silver is simple. And it requires an effort, focused. It requires a team and a little bit of strategy. And so I did an interview with specific questions. So the questions that I asked were placed specifically at a specific time to walk you through the timeline, the mind and the emotion, the mind and heart of the person going silver. I wanted you to see in this call how it was the same for everybody. And the only thing that was different was how long it took them to get it done. That was the only thing that was different. And what's interesting was the one who took the least amount of time took, I think, 4 days to go silver. And the one who took the most amount of time took, I believe, 6 weeks. Now, what's even more interesting is some of these people were in the business for much longer than 6 weeks. But they didn't go silver until they made a decision to. And the start of the entire process for every one of them was a decision. And what prompted them to make a decision for every one of them was an event. It was one of two events. It was either our Team Diamond event or the Humans Being More event. It was an event. And it was that's why we have a rhythm event once a month, because the lock-in event is by design trying to stimulate a trigger point, a decision point. But guess what? If you guys bringing people to the party aren't trained to get the decision made, then the event happens, no decisions made.
Right.
And if the decision isn't made, nothing changes.
Right.
Because it all starts from the decision. I encourage you to listen to that audio track on YouTube, Silver's a Blast, and you will hear that it was exactly what it was, a roller coaster ride for everybody. And everybody thought it wasn't going to get done the last week of the month, every time. And yet, pull the rabbit out of a hat. And boom, 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 they all go silver, and everybody's excited, and so forth. And you will hear another thing that's consistent. Oh, my upline was so helpful. I couldn't have done it without my upline. You'll hear that in every one of their testimonies. So what's important about knowing that is that if there is a process for this, turning a consultant into a silver, if that's actually an advanced strategy that can be duplicated, then we've got two strategies. We've got one for attracting people into Nikken, and then we've got one for launching people into a silver ship.
Mike, I think what you said earlier is that the shift went from lowering that bar so much to, the 21 Club before, 7 days of 21 appointments, 3 working days afterwards to have 5,000 points. And so now it's 6,000 points over 3 months. Even in the incentives this year, they got rid of the Entrepreneurs Club and the Paragon Award because they weren't being achieved other than Leo. And so that...
Well, what's interesting is instead of interviewing Leo and modeling what Leo's doing, what do? Get rid of it.
I know, that's my point.
That's not
so
logical.
You just said that. So what you said in talking to those others, Ben and whoever else, I think it needs to be Lewis and Kurt, is that needs to be changed again. The incentive program, we have a retail selling incentive program. That's what you get rewarded for. Rather than
there is some team building in the incentive because some of those incentives can't be achieved just through retail.
Some,
but
not much. much.
But you can actually go to Team Kaizen pretty much on retail strategy, right? So yes, we have had the pendulum swing all the way over to
Yes.
this retail model, and it hasn't come back to the center line, which is you got to have both oars in the water. You need a retail business and you need your organization, which is why I've started to use the term, let's get clear when we say we're building our business. What do we mean by that? There's building a retail business and there's building an organization, and they are very different. They're different discussions, different intentions, different activity, different visualizations.
But then the last couple Nikan Now meetings, what I've heard Luis say is the network marketing was the old model, and now it's e-commerce. And so that again is a lot of contacts, a lot of retail sales. It's raised questions. And so that momentum and that excitement, like you said, this is exciting when you have a lot of people doing it. If it had worked, there'd be more people with those 500 points, the badges and whatever, the look like this. and there aren't even hardly any power starts, let alone any new silvers.
But they're not being recognized. They're there, but they're not being recognized. Again, so what is not being recognized is not being multiplied.
Right.
What you recognize, when you measure, grows. What you measure and recognize multiplies. So
right.
Why I'm talking about this is because I think we've got to bring the culture back. And by the way, I'm not convinced that that's the solution. That may be the solution for a very small perspective, because at the end of the day, I'm not Nikan. At the end of the day, I'm Mike DiMuccio. I have a company called Good Vibrations International, and I only got into this business to build an organization, not to retail product. So my vision is not in harmony with a retail model, except for the fact that there needs to be a retail model to support the business at the lower end, which means if everybody has a small bit of retail that they're doing, remember, if you look at my, the concentric rings image where we show that's based on everybody having an inner circle of customers and consultants.
Right.
But it's not me finding 10, 20, 30 customers a month on Amazon or whatever the heck that's not the business I'm in. That may be the business they would like you to be in, but I can tell you my downline in Latin America, they're not in that business, and they're the ones that are really showing us how to do the business. So while they have retail, while they do have a robust social media program, while they do have a very robust back office and shopping cart experience, they are the leading, they have all the bells and whistles. So they have those things, but that's not what compels people to drive the business. There's still a force there's still the power behind this, the leadership meetings that they have, et cetera, is culture. They want to create a community of leaders and leadership. And so that is a different conversation. That's, in fact, when I was with Gustavo in Chile, in the launch of Chile back in February, I was there, and he said there's really two paths. There's the organic path, and the organic path they define as the incentives that they are running, like the incentives that we have in our incentive program. Those incentives really stimulate behavior and so forth for developing your business in an organic way, especially for people getting started. It's kind of a step-by-step, learn the ropes and build a base of consumers and a few consultants joining you, right? Now, that is true for the majority of people who may be inexperienced in network marketing, who may be inexperienced in any kind of e-commerce or being self-employed, which happens to be the masses. So they've built a net, if you will. They've baited the hook, if you will, with a plan that appeals to the majority of people who might be looking to transition into a business of like ours. Yes, great. We needed that. We need to be able to appeal to that audience because they are the majority, and there's a lot more of them coming over to being self-employed, so they needed that path. However, the people that we want to attract that are going to build large followings, large organizations, they want more. than just a sideline or side hustle. They want something that gives them a sense of professionalism. They want something that gives them a professional income. They want something that gives them a sense of being an influencer, that they can leverage their influence. So you can't go to somebody who is an influencer and start talking to them about schlepping products. That ain't gonna fly. You can go to an influencer and start talking to them about how their influence can make waves for decades to come, have an impact on generations. That's going to talk to them. And now that conversation can eventually disclose all the other moving parts of the business, but which conversation is going to attract that person? It's going to be the one that talks about our comp plan, that shows them the leadership possibilities, where the residual income comes from, how that happens by multiplication of an organization. They need to see that. They need to understand that. The reason why the 4-year career is being republished is because that conversation still holds water. And the network marketing companies that I track that are growing because they are building a network marketing business. They're building an organization, and they're creating a cultural experience for that organization. And yes, they have a product, and yes, people sell the product, and yes, people consume the product, but that's not the thrust. The thrust is the big picture. And now Luis is trying to help marry the two ideas when he brought in my conversation was humans being more. So you guys saw me branding humans being more, putting that back, front, and center stage. That is going to be the component that brings culture and connectivity for all components of the business, whether you're in the business to grow an organization or you're just being a customer. What he's now referring to it as, that concept, is building a global wellness community. The idea of community is what will bring people together and create a cultural experience with the theme of that community as humans being more. Same idea, same concept, but that's an inclusive. The strategy is to be inclusive and draw people into Nikken through inclusion. And so that allows for a customer, it allows for people who are looking at this as a sideline, and it allows for people looking at this in terms of the big picture. But when it comes to actual strategy, when it comes to putting points on the scoreboard, you can't simply manage the business from the grassroots, ground up approach, because that's a laissez-faire. That's do what you can, when you can, whenever you want. There's no objectives, no goal setting. You don't want to scare anybody off. That doesn't support the leadership, the compensation plan on the other end. What supports that is being an influence and creating an organization and a following. And the people who are doing that on social media are making a fortune. Well, why would we not want those people? We want those people. So we need to represent and present how Nikken is an opportunity to create a following and have an influence and be compensated 6 generations of that influence. So that comes back to, we need to start setting goals for rank advancement. That needs to be something you do monthly. That has to be as important to you as generating any type of volume, PGV volume or PPV volume that you're putting on the scoreboard. It has to be just as important to you. And if the law of attraction is the law of attraction, then as you intend, so shall you reap. So part of the problem is, I'll tell you what the question I used to ask myself, and I'm starting to ask myself again. This is what my organization, this is what it looks like for me. So I look at the tree and I put a question mark under each leg. You know what that question mark is? Who's going silver this month? So my radar is not looking for that customer where the organization's concerned. My radar is, who is the person I'm going to plug into to go silver this month in that leg? That's where I'm sweeping, so that I can then zoom in and apply that strategy, apply the goal setting, create the expectation, let them leverage my belief system. Since they don't have it yet, they haven't experienced silver, they don't have the belief of it. Belief is experiential in nature. You've got to believe it to see it, but they don't yet have that connection. So they have to borrow it. They can borrow it from me. And that's where you come in. You as a leader who've been through it, understands silver's a blast. You know, it's just a process. It's just a phase. You got that magic stardust. You got that belief system. You can be the partner that they need in order to get it done. When they're hemming and hawing and they're not sure if they can do it and all that. Of course you can. Simple as, it's easy peasy. Let's just get to work. And so now you become somebody who's very important in that factor. You're the it factor in the equation. And this is where you need to really go to work. This is where your experience, your expertise, your confidence, your mind-heart connection matters, is when you can actually impact somebody and put some numbers on the scoreboard with that somebody's concerned. Like, you guys might be struggling to find somebody for yourself, but I'll bet you have no problem working for somebody else. You know, they used to say the easiest way to go silver is just help somebody else go silver.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just do what's easy then. Who can I help go silver this month? If that's the question you start out the month with, if that's the, you know, the subconscious mind, the reticular activation system starts sweeping, looking for the answer.
It was never presented this way, so it's a whole new perspective for me. Thank you.
Oh, very welcome. Oh boy, we're 12 minutes over. Okay, we'll leave it at that. But maybe we can pick up on this next week. But certainly give it a try. Like, if you could bring some of this intel through personal experience this month, even if it's just a single customer, whatever, if you can apply this so you own a piece of this. So now you can say, yeah, I own it. I did it. I made that happen. Now I can multiply it. And listen to the Silver's a Blast audio. It's a gas. It really is really good audio. All right, folks. Thanks for standing by, staying tuned, and chiming in. Have a good one.
Thanks for another awesome class, Mike.
Happy birthday, Linda.
Oh, thank you, Mike. Very sweet. Have a great week, everybody.